Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. This is the beginning of our fourth week of class. Tonight we will be discussing road rage, and then we're going to go right into adverse weather conditions. So we've got to finish up a few things, and then we'll get right into driving in bad weather. So we'll wait for people to log on. So hopefully everybody had a great weekend. It was good to drive with a few of you over the last couple days because we're getting closer and closer to finishing up. So it's the final stretch, the last 2 weeks. So, and we are going to have to talk the beginning of next week about collecting textbooks because I have to get ready with the class that's going to be right after yours. So sometime this weekend, sometime the beginning of next week, we'll start talking about how we're going to close things out with what you have for assignments. So we're almost up to a full class. This is looking good. I'm going to put this up on the board. So anybody that wants to think about driving tomorrow, I know Wednesday usually you don't have any school. So if you can break away and get over to the high school, these are the times that I have open for tomorrow, 8, 9, 11, 2, and 5. I'll put that up again probably later at the end of tonight's program before we break for the evening. I will do Thursday. I'll probably do the rest of the next 2 weeks the same way. We'll kind of go through what I have for availability and just post it up that way. And then you can basically text me and let me know which one of these hours works for you, and I'll try to make the decision on who to let drive and who to move to another time. So this is a good week. I really look forward to, not that I don't like every topic that we have, but for some reason, when it comes to driving in bad weather, I really think this is what is going to challenge you as a driver. It really separates the good drivers from the bad drivers. It really isn't impossible to drive in most bad weather conditions if you're a little bit smart on how you approach things, not only positioning and speed, braking techniques, when to go out, when to stay home, things like that we'll talk about a little bit later. Part of your homework, and I would say probably a third to half of you only provided me right after last Thursday's class, you went right online and found some articles dealing with road rage, and you sent that along to me, so I appreciate that. But some of you still have not done your road rage homework, so please, after tonight, when we break away a little after 9 o'clock, do your homework, what you still have outstanding to me. Road rage. Everybody suffers from it to various degrees because we're all human. We all have that innate feeling that I am doing the right thing, or leave me alone, give me some space. And when people start to infringe on that area, we take offense to it, and we feel like we've got to teach them a lesson. We've got to do something to indicate that we're not happy with what they're doing. And usually when you have two people that are unhappy, that usually leads to some type of a disagreement. And how do you solve disagreements in cars? Usually people start to act out with their position, speed, following distance, things like that. So that's what we want to kind of key on. So let's kind of get right into the PowerPoint for tonight. And then I got one last video that I want to show you. I want you to write down in your notes. So there's a few things here that I want you to write down. Anger and feeling mad. Okay, they're both a human emotion, and a lot of people think they're the same thing, but in reality, they're a little bit different. Anger is a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, and hostility. Okay, that's pretty common. It's pretty easy to deal with. Anger doesn't usually tend to get out of hand. If it does, then it's moving into where you're mad or madness. So being mad or madness is completely unrestrained by reason or judgment. It's basically acting out. Think of a little kid that's in a grocery store and he wants to get his favorite cereal. And his mom goes, "Not this week. Maybe we'll get it next week. We've got some things that we've got to finish up, but you're not getting it today." So he goes to the ground, kicks his feet, makes a big scene, maybe knocks over some cereal boxes. That is being mad. Okay. Anger, a closer example to anger would be like if I gave everyone tonight a 2-page assignment, typed, single space, with 2 references and footnotes. And most of you are going, footnotes, references, I haven't done that and for English in a while. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that and get it done for tonight. So if I gave you a timeline and gave you something like that, you would not be happy with me. You'd be angry. Okay? That's displeasure. You're being annoyed. But I don't think anybody would, quit driver's ed, or next time that they see me would, hit me over the head with the textbook or something. You may think that, but you really wouldn't act out on it. Now, a lot of people think, well, if someone is doing something to me on the road, why not let them know that I'm not happy with them? That could tend to make things worse by letting them know that you're not happy. It's better just to ignore. Just let it go. This was an article that I found many years ago of a woman in Florida that had been driving down the road with her young daughter, and someone in a Jeep was not happy with the speed that she was driving. And later down the road, she found that woman that the person flipped her off when they went by her. So the person that flipped her off had some type of a car problem, and her car went off the edge of the road, and it was on fire. And rather than drive by, and says, "Serves you right. I hope you get, what you deserve," she actually pulled over and tried to help the woman. Okay. So she didn't let her emotions, her displeasure of being angry at how someone flipped her off, she was in control and she acted the correct way. So what I want you to write down is that most people that are doing things on the road are doing them for a reason, meaning that they're late for work, school. They like to go fast, you're going slow. They pull out from traffic situations like stop signs, traffic lights, because they don't make adequate checks. So they're just going to pull right out, and they don't care if you're there or not. People will tailgate you on purpose just to see if you will pick up your speed to get going. Being passed is a sure sign of someone that's being aggressive. And taking someone's parking spot, especially in the wintertime, especially when it's cold and you want to get into the school or get in, you're going to be upset that someone scoots right in, even though you've got your directional on and you've been waiting for a while. That is going to get you upset. I would almost imagine, if I was to ask you to put in the comments here, how many of you have parents, siblings, or friends that scream and holler at people while they're driving? I think everybody would probably have to say they know somebody. Because we're in the protection of our vehicle, we feel we can say and do anything. And you basically can. The other people can't hear you, but it does do something to you internally. It does kind of awaken the road rage giant, where you could really do something outrageous. If you act out on road rage, these are the things. I want you to write these down. I will guarantee, if you let this madness of being angry get to you, where you act out on it, so you're going to, act out on it, you're going to probably end up in a crash where you use your vehicle to bump somebody. You're going to probably get out of your vehicle to confront somebody. Not a good thing. Police are looking for you. There's a possibility the police are going to see you tailgating and give you a ticket. So it could lead to a ticket. And even in some states, you could suffer jail time. You're going to be spending some time probably the weekend. And by when I say jail, I'm not talking like months. A lot of times with some of these offenses, they're going to make you do like, you know, 5 days, and then it's like 5 Saturdays. I know Virginia was doing something like that at one point. So it's not going to totally disrupt your life where you're going to have to, take vacation time or take some time off from work, and not get paid for it. They don't want to do that, but they do want you to have a taste of being put out and hopefully to change your behavior. And hopefully it does. So, what I want you to write down here, so there's two slides here that I want you to write down on. Road rage begins inside your head, it's the way you perceive things. Okay, you think that someone took advantage of you, so you think that someone's doing something wrong. You want to show them that you know better than they are. You are better than they are. So it changes the way that you're driving. No longer are you thinking about, I'm going to work, I'm going to school. You start thinking about, oh, yeah, I'm going to get you. I'm going to go up to the next intersection, roll down my window, and throw my hot coffee at you. All right. So you become preoccupied about how you're going to pay this person back. And the thing about road rage, I think you should always think about, what is my end result? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to accomplish by tailgating them, racing them up to the traffic light and throwing my coffee at them? When that happens, then what? What's going to happen? Is it just going to stop, or is it going to get worse? Do you think that they really feel that what you're saying or what you're doing is going to change the way they look at you or what they did to you? It probably won't. So it's just kind of cut to the chase and let them go. Just kind of say, hey, I know this is something that, I did to you. I cut you off. I'm sorry, but don't get involved. Don't get involved. That's one thing you should never, ever do, is to try to reason away and make eye contact. Keep your window closed, look straight ahead, keep driving where you want to go. If you feel threatened, you should be driving to a police station, driving to a place where there are a lot of people that can come to your aid. But you do not want to make things worse by trying to explain yourself, because a lot of times explaining is only going to make it worse. And then you're going to feel bad about it. So that's the mental part of it. What's going on inside of you? Physically, your blood pressure is going through the roof. Your heart rate's going a mile a minute. You get very, very tensed. You may even shake. I think some of you, if you've ever been in an argument with somebody and they've gotten very close to you in your physical space, you start to get tense. You start to shake a little bit. And that body language, not only theirs, but yours, you can tell that something is going to happen. You basically know this is not going to be good. All right. I don't know if there's many, fist fights in high school anymore. Well, this year there's not, because you're not in school. At least all of you. Some of you have gone back. But when I was in high school, in the cafeteria, there was always, one good fist fight between two guys in the cafeteria for whatever reason. And you can basically almost could see it happening. You could see that they were starting to raise their voice. They started to get close to one another. There might be a little bit of pushing. And then before you know it, you could just tell by body language, there they go. Throwing fist on the ground, wrestling, whatever. It was just a mess. Now people have taken that same mentality and they've done it out on the roadways, where they're using their vehicle as weapons. They bring weapons in the car. I've had a student actually tell me that they had a brother that was driving in a town nearby, and I think he cut somebody off. And when he got up to the next stop sign, someone actually pointed a gun at him. Now, whether it was real, whether there was ammunition in it, I don't know. But it sure looked real to them, they said. And it really made them kind of nervous about what was going to happen. So nothing really good happens with road rage. So you've got to keep your emotions under control. So with solutions, first thing, why did it happen? Did you contribute to the problem? Were you going too slow? Did you not use your directional? Remember, you can't change anything. You can only make it worse. I think your parents told you 2 wrongs don't make a right. And by trying to pay them back, that's not positive. In the moment, it may make you feel good, but just as you do it, then you're probably thinking, maybe I shouldn't have done it. Most of the articles that people have sent in to me where people were injured or killed, I will guarantee when they went to court, because all these situations, they were going to court. Every single situation, the people probably felt horrible about what they had done. Just the videos that I showed you last week on Thursday. The teen from New Hampshire. I don't know why I did it. I'm not like that. But in the moment, there's a part of you that is. And you're going to take ownership of that. So try to control what you can control. Control your speed, your position. Drive safely. Get to where you're going. Remember, you are going to be shooken up by this. I can tell you, even I can still remember when I was younger, it takes you by surprise when someone starts screaming at you or comes up side by side with you in their vehicle, because it takes you by surprise. You don't really realize how bad things had really gotten. So I'm going to show you one last video that was done by 2020. ABC always does these good investigative series on people's behavior, and they did one on road rage a while back, so I was able to get the clip of this. So let's take a look at road rage. I believe it's in Denver, Colorado, and you're going to see it from a perspective of a police officer. And you would think when you see a police officer, you're not going to act out, you're not going to be too aggressive with your driving, but not everybody is paying attention to the police out there on the roadway. So let's take a look what's happening out there in the Midwest.
We all have it in us, even if we don't know exactly where it is. A limit, a breaking point, a dark place where civilization ends and animal instinct takes over. And there may be no faster way to get there than right here, on the roadways of America at the intersection of velocity and violence.
Oh, we have 2 victims here.
You've seen the stories leading your local news.
Another case of road rage.
And polluting YouTube. What feels like a daily diet of road rage reports. Just last week, this shocking video of an incident on a California freeway leading to a multi-car crash.
Call 911, Chris.
Nearly half of all drivers surveyed have experienced some form of road rage. Here in Denver, the mile-high city, drivers have hit new lows. Local officials reporting deadly traffic crashes have been slowly creeping up for several years.
We know you're fed up. So are we.
We came to see for ourselves. It didn't take long for us to find it. Rocky Mountain Rage.
Golly, that guy. He was like almost in our lane.
You want reasons? Look around. The city's rush hour turns freeways into ant farms. It's a stop-and-go sea of brake lights.
Yeah, it's not moving up there.
What typically should be a 30-minute commute can take nearly an hour and a half, enough to turn any driver into a ticking time bomb.
I was surprised at how bad the traffic is in Denver.
It's heavy, it's crowded, and it's aggressive.
Captain Jeff Goodwin of the Colorado State Patrol is fighting the uphill battle against an army of hot-tempered motorists.
Don't touch me!
There is that group of individuals that get up helter-skelter every morning. They're never on time. So now they're running late and they've got to make up that time. So how do they do it? They do it by pushing people out of the way, cutting them off, changing from the inside left lane all the way to the exit ramp right as they get there.
Goodwin believes he's pinpointed the root of the problem. With more than 100,000 people transplanting to Denver every year, it's as simple as too many metal machines, not enough pavement.
I used to think it was something like people cutting you off. But you know, one of the things that people really get angry about, if somebody honks the horn at you because you've sat too long at a light, I think they literally go from the Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde.
Around the country, it's not just gangbangers and street thugs mixing it up. It could be any of us. Take a look at these guys in business attire doing the WWE SmackDown. We showed the good Captain Goodwin some examples of bad behavior, and he provided us some potentially life-saving road rules to help you. Rule number 1, don't make eye contact.
This motorist is out of control. And this victim is doing all the right things.
Just stare ahead, don't engage.
Right. Yeah, the minute you engage, who knows where this goes?
Rule number 2, never approach the window.
All right, wow, okay. This is more than over the top because now you have a gun involved.
So you're gonna pull your gun out? What kind of...
You never know who's packing heat.
Exactly.
Is approaching someone's window ever a good idea?
Never do it.
And most important, rule number 3, you don't always have to win.
Looks like it's gonna be over.
But as we see in this case from Houston, the parties involved just can't help themselves.
And here we go. There you go.
I mean, now they're at full-blown fist fight.
Right, this is what happens. It gets worse. The longer this goes, the worse it's gonna get.
It looks like they just need to win the argument.
That's what it is.
It was 4:15 when we hit the road with Goodwin and his team. They prowled the interstate looking for bad behavior.
We're looking for aggressive drivers.
Triggers, which often lead to the road rage we see on the news.
This is a 75 mile.
Well, we're doing 17 and a 75 at rush hour.
I got a lady who was texting if you want to pull her over.
Within minutes, Goodwin's team has spotted a common breed, a texter at the wheel. Goodwin says distracted driving, the #1 offense that sends drivers into road rage.
And how does that end up leading to road rage?
Well, when she's texting, she's not paying attention to everybody else out here.
Next, we cross paths with a lead-foot speedster, the deadliest kind of aggressive driver.
I could see him in the rearview mirror weaving in and out. He was trying to find that opening.
And that's when people get mad.
Right.
It was now 5:45, the road rage witching hour.
Yeah, we're pulling out.
Goodwin says the peak time for trouble. And the cops had busted this aggressive driver for skipping the off-ramp and blazing her own trail altogether.
Right now, there's a warrant for your arrest.
Her prize? Some new bracelets and a ride in the fast lane to the county clink.
She doesn't have a valid driver's license either, so that's been canceled and denied, so she shouldn't be driving anyway.
We'd found ourselves at a notorious hotspot.
So this is the frontage road where we have a lot of our issues.
And got a dose of full frontage fury.
So people will be frustrated, they'll come off the frontage road, and then they actually will do this, believe it or not. They will drive here,
Holy cow, this is so steep.
and they will find that steep drop down to the interstate, and they will bounce their way back down into Interstate 25. All because they're angry about sitting in traffic. Off-roading on I-25.
Yeah.
As Friday rush hour traffic mounts once again, we spot this guy who thought he could make up time bypassing all the drivers ahead of him, riding along the road's shoulder. But he's going nowhere fast today.
Well, over here.
Hey, sir, do me a favor and stay in your car while we do this business, okay? You passed about 7 or 8 cars going alongside them on the right. You went over the white shoulder. That's not a lane for turning. It's not a lane for passing.
Like many road rogues, this guy's idea of defensive driving is making excuses for his alleged moving violations. He even called 911 to complain about being pulled over.
He stopped me first on the train track with the train coming down the road.
And now that he's caught, he's upset, just is not in agreement at all with what's going on here. So that's his beef.
There goes a guy. There he goes.
Next, check out this blue truck. The driver has jumped the median, passing up other cars, hightailing it the wrong way into oncoming traffic. Captain Goodwin pulls him over, hand on the holster.
What was it? You got kids in the car.
I haven't seen anybody drive that aggressively in years. He's doing about 90 miles an hour. He damn near hit several cars back there.
I charged him with reckless driving. He just didn't plan on having any law enforcement around to stop him today.
You don't think it's just a Y chromosome thing?
You see a lot of aggressive driving from both sexes.
Everybody drives crazy.
Yeah, it's
So you can see that people's behavior, even though they know that it's being heavily patrolled by police, that they still act out. And I forgot to mention, texting is huge. A lot of people truly get upset at people texting, and they feel like they've got to teach them a lesson. The other thing that I thought was kind of ironic is they showed you a person that was doing, well, I think she was the one that was texting, driving without a valid license. And there was a warrant out for her arrest. So she gets, handcuffed and stuffed into the back of the cruiser. So you would think that people would be on their best behavior when they're driving, knowing that they shouldn't be out on the road. But people's behavior, you just can't tell people what to do. So that's it for road rage. The next thing we're going to be getting into tonight is driving in bad weather. Now, as much as I think spring is here to stay, there is a chance that we're still going to get some accumulating snow before we get right into the thick of spring and summer. We always get a surprise sometime in April or even May. We could get, 8 to 10 inches, and then it just wreaks havoc out on the roadway. The thing that I want you to take away from this picture, and I kind of like the wording from this picture, what a mess, because it does give you a sense that most people aren't able to control their vehicle when it's snowing, because it is very difficult with lack of traction. But there are probably, I don't know, we can see about maybe 8 or 9 cars that are banged into one another. Looks like some of the tractor trailers have hit some of the cars, so we know that it's going to take a while to kind of, unscramble the rats, mess here. So it comes down to driving in bad weather, 2 things. It comes down to controlling your speed, so write this down, because I will test you on this. It comes down to controlling your speed, knowing what is the adequate and appropriate speed to be driving for the weather conditions that are outside, and what is my following distance. It's no lie. There is probably no type of weather where you can't have some movement of vehicles, because we have to treat the road. So even though we don't have a lot of passenger vehicles out on the road, we still have emergency vehicles. We have maintenance vehicles out plowing. We've got emergency vehicles, ambulances, police cars, fire trucks still need to drive in any type of weather. So you have to know how to drive. So what I'm saying is that you've got to know when 30 is too fast. Even though it says 55, on that interstate right there where it should be about 55, I believe, it could be a little bit higher. If people are traveling 30 and they're sliding all over the place, well, 30 is not the appropriate speed. Look for a lane where people are going 20. Are the people that are going 20, are they having any issues? What is their following distance? And learn from the people that are in front of you. I will tell you, you're really reading the road by what is happening up ahead. The road up ahead is where you're getting your answers to the questions of what I need to do with my speed and what am I doing with my following distance. If you don't look way up ahead, if you misread what their speed is or what their following distance, you're going to be just like them. And if they're slipping and sliding, you're going to be slipping and sliding just like them. So in the state manual, they talk about winter weather being the worst. And I would probably tend to agree, being in New England, winter weather is harsh. It is terrible. Not impossible, like I said. But there are 3 different types of winter weather: ice, sleet, and snow. And that is the order of severity. Ice is the worst, then sleet, then snow. Now, each one of those calls for a slightly different approach on how we're going to handle it. So let's take a look at ice. Okay, let me show you this.
An expressway slick with ice, black ice, thin, nearly invisible to drivers. The ice has caused a car to crash in the fast lane. Trooper Jeff Oken parks his cruiser to prevent a pileup. But behind him, drivers are approaching way too fast.
Oh, they want us to buy the DVD. I think we know what happened. They basically gave us a rundown. It was black ice. And he wasn't able to slow down, get out of the lane where the police officer is. So we know that he ran into the cruiser. I kind of like this sign. And I'm wondering if someone actually made this and put it on top of a sign. But drivers ignoring winter conditions may be subject to natural selection. That's the way that I look at it. Those people that are stuck in snowbanks, that are, slipping and slide, even though your car may have something to do with it, meaning your tires, your brakes, whether you've got enough weight in the vehicle to kind of give you some traction. I mean, that does come into play, but it really starts with what you have up in your head and the way that you see things and approach things. And by the way, that's your fault if you've got bad tires and brakes. Okay, you've got to find a way to come up with the money to make sure that your car is in the best condition to drive. So let's take a look at some people. And when I say drivers ignoring winter conditions will be subject to natural selection, let me show you this little clip of it's a compilation of bad winter driving. So all these people should have taken a driver's ed class or a winter driving class to let them know how to drive in bad weather, because these people are definitely not doing it the right way. So let's take a look at some people driving incorrectly.
Expressway slick with ice.
So you get the idea of people that aren't driving correctly. And by the way, that last clip of the car on the highway that did a 360, that went all the way around in a full circle, I've actually done that with a student. Not on purpose, but because they were following too close, and then they hit the brakes too hard when we did have to brake. And because the wheels were turned a little bit, we spun that car right around. Now, we weren't going that fast. We weren't on a highway, but we were probably going 30 miles per hour. And let me tell you, I'm just so thankful we didn't have oncoming traffic, because there were cars coming in the opposite direction, but just not at the point where we were. So these things will happen, but we got to learn how to minimize it. So let's kind of talk about the three different types of winter driving. So let's talk about ice. We know ice is frozen water. And when we think of ice, we think of what's on the ground. All right. So ice is usually a problem when it thaws during the day and refreezes at night. Or it rains during the day, like in late fall, early spring, where we have some of these warmer temperatures like today, which was above the freezing point. But if it started to rain and if it drops tonight, there will be black ice out on the road. Where is it usually found? Because the road is banked, it's going to drain off towards the right. Okay? So black ice is going to be more prevalent over near the white edge line. Doesn't mean that you can't find it other spots. But think of where you find most of your potholes. Off to the right. That's where water drains. So that's where black ice is going to be. Also write down in your notes, like I said, you're going to find it probably late November, early December, and then probably this month, from now till mid-April, black ice could be a problem in the morning when you get up and want to drive to school once you get your license. So you still may encounter this. It's been a pretty good winter. We really haven't had many bad days. It is only a traction problem. Most of the time when we think of winter weather, we're thinking about stuff that's coming from the sky and creating a problem. Ice is not coming from the sky. In essence, if it's coming from the sky because of frozen rain, which we call sleet, that's going to be on the next slide, it will accumulate to form a thickness of ice. But ice is usually more substantial. So here's the big question. Where do I drive? Try to drive where other cars have driven. So we're going to call those tire tracks. Stay in the tire tracks of cars that are driven in front of you. The heat from their tires and the exhaust from their cars will usually make a strip in the road that is just wet and not frozen, and you're not going to suffer from the black ice. If you can't find where the tracks are and you're on the road, what is the speed that I should be going? Okay, now you're going to find this kind of ironic or a little bit, it kind of ties in with our topic on airbags. This is what I base this on. Airbags usually deploy at a speed of 15 miles per hour. Now, if ice is the hardest thing to drive on, and I probably will have very minimal control, then I want to go my lowest speed. So I would say under 15. That way the airbags don't deploy. Because a lot of times if you're only going 10, 12 miles per hour and you go off the edge of the road, anything that you do strike, you're not going to do major damage. You're not going to get hurt, that's for sure. But you also don't want to replace $1,500 airbags all around your car. So I would go less than 15 miles per hour. There's a good example of ice, of how rain freezes and then it hardens into ice. Now, later in the day, it started to thaw out because the metal started to get a little warm, and it just kind of slipped down. So that's not very thick. It's amazing that they were able to still take this picture. Now, I want you to write this down. This will be a test question. I'll guarantee it. You've got to be extremely careful on your overpasses and bridges. Bridges freeze first because you have air circulation below the bridge and above the bridge. It will conduct that cold temperature and will hold that pavement to a colder temperature longer than the thermal warming from the ground. So when you're on a back road, okay, there's still heat coming from the dirt for a good portion of the fall and early spring. So when it warms up during the day. Bridges, not so much. The next type of winter weather is sleet. Now, the reason why it's different than ice is because it comes from above. So it starts out as rain. As it gets down in the atmosphere, it freezes up and starts to, form these little pellets. And the pellets can be, wet enough that it can start to create ice, a thickness of ice. So driving in sleet is worse than driving on ice because it gets to be a vision problem too. Now you're going to be able to go faster than driving on ice because it is hitting the ground and usually it's thawing right off. The black ice takes a little bit longer to get cold and hold that temperature, so it's going to stay that way until mid-morning, whatever. But the traction and vision problem with sleet, I would say vision is probably even worse than the traction problem with sleet. And where you're going to drive, once again, the answer for all bad weather, I'll tell you right now, is staying in the tracks of other people. They're going to push the bad weather, whether it be ice, sleet, or snow. You're going to get better contact with the road where the warm tires have started to take care of all the mess that's out on the roadway in bad weather. So what's the speed? Sleet would probably be a little bit faster than ice. Black ice, like I said, under 15, then I'd probably go 15, 20, 25 with sleet. Even in a speed limit of 35, 40, 50, I'd probably go about 15 to 20, 20. 25 might be on the top end. Okay? Snow. Now, here's the thing that you need to remember, and I want you to evaluate every snowstorm. You're going to think this is kind of, strange. But every time it snows, I think about what type of snow is it? Is it wet or is it dry? Dry snow is a little easier to drive in. It blows away. You get better contact with the road. Wet snow is going to be a lot worse. And your tires aren't going to be able to push that wet snow. It basically just starts caking on your tires. And then it starts to cake on the road, and you can't even find where there are tire tracks of cars that have driven in front of you. But just like sleet, it's a traction problem, vision problem. And I would tend to think that vision problem is worse because vision needs judgment. When you don't have vision, you're making bad decisions and bad judgment. So what I'm saying is that when the side of your car is covered with snow, because you don't have wipers on your side windows, you may have to roll down your window to see at a stop sign, are there any cars coming? Because remember, the cars that are coming towards you are covered with snow. And it's snowing out, so everything looks like white. And it's going to be really hard to really figure out, is that a car? Is that a car coming from the right or coming from the left? How fast is it coming? So the vision is a bad thing. I mean, it really creates some major, major problems. But if we can find some black on the roadway where other cars have gone, those tire tracks, we're going to hope for it. We're going to shoot for it. And that's where we're going to put it. But a lot of people say, well, Mr. Toll, it's too close to the white line. It's too far to the right. That's probably where you want to be. You don't want to make a mistake and be too close to the yellow line. So you want to get off to the right. But be careful when there's parked cars. So what's the speed? If it's dry snow, I'd say drop my speed by 5, 10, whatever the posted speed limit is. If it's 25, go 20. 35, go 30. 55, go 50, 45. So drop by about 5 or 10. If it's wet snow, you want to cut it down by a third. Almost a little faster than sleet. But once again, like I said, look to the people in front of you. Are they having issues? If they are, what's their speed? Oh, they're going 35 up the hill, and they're just barely getting up the hill, and they're going kind of sideways. Well, guess what? You probably shouldn't go 35. And the other thing you can do, remember, there is a gear just below drive. If you're starting to lose contact with the road, I would downshift into my lower drive position. That is going to give your tires better torque to pull you through out of the mess. It's going to help you get up that hill. It's going to help you brake coming down that hill. Anytime you use the accelerator to extreme or the brake pedal to extreme, it may throw you more into a skid. What should you do if you get stuck in the snow? Well, you're going to have to get your car out. So how are you going to get your car out? I'm going to have to get out of here for a second and get you to my picture. I got to come back on screen. All right, so I am behind my stand-up desk right now. So I've got my hands on. I'm going to bring them up a little higher. This is where my desk is, okay? So I'm going to look at the screen and imagine I'm pushing on the back of a car. Okay, what I want you to write down, to get out of a snowbank where you're stuck, it's called rocking the car. Okay, so what you do is you tell the driver, you get behind the vehicle. And by the way, you never, ever get right behind the vehicle. So if this is the vehicle and I'm right behind the license plate, this is not where you want to be pushing. All right? So you may not be able to hear me, but I'm going to go off to the side, and I'm going to push from here. I'm going to be on the side of my vehicle. I'm going to be on the side of the vehicle with one hand like on the back window and the other one on the trunk, and I'm going to push. I'm going to rock the car back and forth. So rocking the car. So you tell the driver, put it in drive. The driver puts it in drive, and you push. Then you say, put it in reverse. He goes in reverse. Then you say, put it in drive, and you push forward. Put it in reverse. And what you're doing is you're rocking the vehicle out of that little area where one of your tires is stuck. Okay? Now, the other thing is these are traction mats. I usually keep this in my trunk. I brought this out. I'm not going to take it out because it's really tough to get back, but I'll show it up to the camera. Okay, these are like clamps that go underneath your tire. So you open up these trifolds and you stick them under your tire, and this will grip the road and it will also grip your tire, and you're able to get out if you're all by yourself. Because a lot of times you go, well, I wonder if I'm driving and I don't have anybody to rock me out of my spot. How am I going to get out? So these traction mats are really, really helpful. Let me just get this out of the way here. I'll take care of that later. Oh, man, that's heavy. Okay, hopefully it doesn't tip over. The other thing about being stuck in snow, okay, I want you to write this down. I'm not going to test you on this, but I want you to let your parents that know that you've learned this in driver's ed. A couple things to do, because there's always a chance that you could be going, at a good slow speed, one that we've been talking about, good following distance, but yet you still hit a bad patch, and for whatever reason you lose control and you go off the edge. And just not off the edge, you go down an embankment and you can't see your car for 30 to 40 feet. So nobody on the road can see you. And let's say that you twisted your ankle when you hit a tree. Your leg got jammed underneath the dead pedal, and it's hard. You just can't get out. One thing you should always do is have your phone charged. Whenever you're driving in bad weather, you always have your cell phone and always have it fully charged. That way you can call for help. And the other thing is there's a GPS on most phones now that they can actually track where you are. Now, beyond that, whenever you drive, and this is something that I think is really wise for young people, there are 3 things you should always do when you're about to get into your car and drive in snow and bad weather, is to call your parents or call somebody and say, I am leaving. I'm going to use an example, my son. Let's say he's out with 3 of his buddies, okay? And they went to the movies in Newington. I live in Rochester, so it's about a 20-minute, 25-minute, ride from my house. So he would call and say, okay, it's 11 o'clock. We just got out. It's beginning to snow. I'm going to take my 3 friends home. And he mentions who the 3 are, and he says who's going to take home first, second, and third. So I know who they are and what order they're going. He's also going to say, I'm going to take the Spalding back. That's probably going to be plowed the best. And then I'm going to take Mike, then Hunter, and then Chan home. So if I ever get a phone call from a parent, I know that they just left at 11 o'clock. I know what route that they're on. I know that Michael got home, so it must be somewhere between Michael and Hunter. So I know that's where I'm going to be looking for maybe the car going off the side of the road. When you're on a roadway that has a long stretch where there aren't many businesses or many homes, don't think you're going to get out and walk for help. I mean, you're going to freeze or you're going to get hit. So be smart. Leave a message. If no one picks up, let them know what you're doing. So if they have to find you, they've got some type of recording or a text message of where to start looking for you. I can't tell you how many times I read in the paper during the wintertime where someone has done something foolish and they didn't think out the process. The other thing that I want to mention too, let me get out of here because I'm talking a lot. The other thing too is if you do get stuck, and let's say that your car can be seen, it just went off the road about 3 feet, but you got stuck and you can't push it out, like I said, with rocking. be careful who you have help you. All right, there are some very nice people out on the roadways that will help you. Other times, especially if I'm a female, it could be just a male all by himself too, because it happens to both. You just never know. You could get robbed. You could be abducted. I mean, that's the world we live in. So anytime someone comes up to help you, have your phone, all right? And like I'm going to put it in my pocket. I'll see if you can see it. So you can still see my phone on. Just put it on video. Put it on video. And just take a video as you converse with somebody. So they'll have an idea of, was it a male or female that was helping you? What did he look like? What did he sound like? You have to take these messages. If you can take a picture of their car, so you got a license plate. Now I know if it's at night, there's going to probably be headlights. You may not get a full good image, but you've got to always think, what is the worst thing that can happen to me when I'm out on the roadway? Okay. Best thing is keep yourself locked in your car. Even though you're stuck, put your flashers on, let people go around you. You can even tell people, my dad's coming. I've got help on the way. Thanks for stopping. I appreciate it. But, take the necessary precautions because you just never know. You just never know. I don't mean to freak you out, but I think I'd be doing you a disservice if I didn't really explain some of the things that do go on out there. Because a lot of times it's the things that we don't think about that when they do happen, we wish that we had some sense of steps to take to make myself a little bit safer. And that's what we want to do, is to make you safe. This is Photoshop, but I just wanted to show you the extreme that snowbankings can be, because they can get extremely, extremely high. And with high snowbankings, it's very hard to see. Now, that was Photoshop. This is a real photo. And if you take a look at the tractor trailer on the left, look how high that snowbanking. It goes above his cab. And to the top of most cabs is, I believe, between 8 and 9 feet. So at the top of the cab, which it looks like it's going over the top of the cab a little bit, that's probably a snowbanking that's 9 feet to 10 feet high. And this is Maine. This is upstate Maine. So when you get to the end of the road at the intersection, that snowbank is going to be really tough to see around. Okay. Hopefully they've knocked it down at the intersection. So what should we do in the winter weather? We should get a feel for the road. I always tell people, go to a parking lot and just go around in a circle. Try to stop real quick. Try to accelerate real quick. Get a feel for the tires spinning. What does it feel like? What does my back end do? What does my front end do? So you're experimenting. We're not talking about, doing, donuts in the parking lot and, screaming and have the music going loud. We're talking about learning. We're talking about training. We're talking about getting a feel for what the road is like, because it's a lot better to know what is happening to your vehicle when you're in a safe area. So when you're in an intersection and the tires are starting to slide, or the car's sliding and the wheels are spinning, what does that mean? What do I do with my accelerator? What do I do with my brake? What do I do with my steering? Oh, I've done that in a parking lot. I know what to do. So if you let it happen for the first time when you're out on the roadway, it will scare you and you'll probably do the wrong thing. Always brake early. Now here they say three times the distance. I just think that's a rough estimate. I just say do it early. The earlier the better. Check your rearview mirror. See how close people are behind you. They probably know it's a traffic light or a stop sign. So, go slow, go slow, go slow. And then start braking. That way you're creeping up to the stop line and not trying to be perfect at a 15 mile an hour approach like you would during fall, spring, and summer. Make sure your tires are in good shape. So in November, usually think about replacing tires to get snow tires on, or all-weather tires, because the less tread, and the only reason we have tread on a tire is to give you traction. Traction is what you need in bad weather. Know if you've got ABS. How does it work? What does it feel like? Make sure your vehicle's in good driving condition. So we're talking about having windshield washer fluid. We're talking about making sure your antifreeze is filled up appropriately, making sure that your defroster is working. Make sure your windows are clear. It's a law in New Hampshire. You've got to clear snow off the roof. It's called Jessica's Law. You'll actually get pulled over by the police. They'll either give you a ticket or they'll tell you to get out and take it off. Take off the snow off the top. So carry some type of broom, some type of device to help get it off, an SUV or a station wagon, which can be very difficult at times to get snow off from. Watch for danger spots, curves, areas that have a lot of trees where it doesn't thaw out. So black ice is going to probably be more of a problem there than on straightaways. Be careful about carbon monoxide poisoning. That is where there's so much snow that your tailpipe isn't allowing the exhaust to come out correctly. So what is happening, it's leaking into the inside of your vehicle. And when that happens, if you don't crack your window, you're going to be lulled to sleep and you're going to be subject to carbon monoxide poisoning. And death could happen. Okay, it does happen. So crack your windows a little bit if you're stuck, especially if the exhaust system seems to be, backing up inside the vehicle. Warming up a car, it used to be where they said it really didn't do too much good, but it does. I'm the firm believer that the colder the temperature, the longer the warm up. So like today, 5-10 minutes is good. If it's below zero, probably 10 to 20 minutes. You remember, you've got power steering fluid, you got power brake fluid. You want to warm up your engine. You want to warm up these fluids so they're functioning correctly. Now, they don't freeze solid, so don't think that's going to happen. But they do get heavy. They do what we call congeal. Congeal means to be made thicker. It's almost like gravy. Okay, whereas it almost be like dishwasher detergent. If you ever, did the dishes and you squeezed out, some of the soap, it just kind of comes out in like a liquid, like maple syrup. That's what's in your vehicle. But, when it gets really cold, it gets kind of lumpy and like gravy, big clumps and thick. So let's talk about what you can do. Now, they do offer driving schools that train you, all these things that we're talking about tonight, real quickly. They do it in a day. They do it like 3 or 4 hours in class, like in the morning, and then the afternoon they take you out to a big, huge parking lot, and they take you through skid control, how to control the acceleration, when to brake. So all these things that we're touching on real quick, they'll go into more detail. So this is what it looks like. We actually have, I think, 3 winter driving schools in New Hampshire, but this one is out in the Midwest somewhere, I think Colorado.
Looking for a new car or truck? TheAutoChannel.com has the most complete and up-to-date pricing, vehicle specifications, and reviews.
While driving on ice and snow can be a frightening experience if you're not mentally and physically prepared, there really are no deep, dark secrets to controlling your vehicle in difficult circumstances.
The Bridgestone Winter Driving School features purpose-built tracks designed to duplicate the most challenging, real-world driving situations.
It is critical to clear all snow and ice from your vehicle, including the roof. Snow left on your roof will quickly obscure the rear window, and when you begin to drive, large chunks of flying snow can block the vision of drivers beside or behind you. To steer smoothly and correctly, place your hands at the 9 and 3 o'clock position on the steering wheel. Keeping your hands on opposite sides of the steering wheel allows you to steer through a corner efficiently and precisely.
Do not attempt to deflate your tire to gain a bigger contact patch with the road surface, because this will only lessen the performance of your tire. Only a properly inflated tire offers maximum grip. Also, remember, tire pressure can change according to the outside temperature. Tire pressures drop 1 psi for every 10 degrees in temperature drop. Also, check your tire pressures regularly to ensure proper inflation. This is especially important in late fall or early winter as temperatures begin to drop. The #1 rule of safe winter driving is to adjust your speed to the current conditions. These conditions include the type of tire, road surface, visibility, the type and weight of your vehicle, and your driving ability. With the traction control and stability control systems in today's cars, many people become overconfident or simply complacent. These systems can help drivers by alerting them to improper responses or correcting small mistakes, but they can't overcome the laws of physics. If your car is equipped with standard brakes, the most effective way to stop in an emergency situation is to use the pumping technique. Most drivers are aware of this concept of pumping the brakes, but don't really understand the proper technique.
So one thing that he mentioned that I forgot to mention is that most cars now are equipped with traction control stability indicator, which means that when one tire is slipping, there's going to be a yellow light that comes on that looks like a car with little zigzag skids on the back of it. So that's telling you that you're losing contact with one of your tires, which is going to make your other 3 tires that are gripping the road, or 2 tires gripping the road a little bit more effectively with more torque to kind of push you out of the bad situation. Most cars now are front-wheel drive, so it's going to react a little different than a rear-wheel driven vehicle. I think it's easier to drive in the winter weather with a front-wheel drive than on a rear wheel. Just make sure you have enough weight in the back. Carry a shovel or sand that will help you if you do get stuck, and I should have mentioned that before. That's just going to help you get out of some bad situations. I think we kind of talked about most of this stuff right here, so I'm not going to kind of go over that at all. The next type of weather that I want to talk about is fog. And I'm going to show you a video clip, and they talk about fog being the most dangerous. I don't agree with that statement. Fog, let me just get through the bullets first, and then we'll deal with it. Fog is only a vision problem. It has nothing to do with traction. It's like just driving in the rain. Fog, by definition, is moisture in the air. So it's not really thick enough. And if you look at heavy fog, it will actually leave little tiny droplets on your vehicle, because that's what it is. So we usually find fog early in the morning, late afternoon, when we have temperature changes, when it goes from cold to warm or warm to cold. It just causes that condensation in near bodies of water. If you've ever lived, or not lived, but vacationed near an ocean or a lake, you know in the early morning there is fog coming off the body of water. So when you're driving and there's like a creek or a river or a bog, a marsh, any of the where there's water present, you're going to probably have a sense of haze or fog to contend with. Put your low beams on and look to the right edge of the road, which is the white marking. Now, the state of New Hampshire calls that white line, not the edge line, but they call it the fog line. Okay, so when you go for your driving test and they talk about you were driving too close to the fog line and you're going, what in the world are you talking about? They're talking about the white line. That's where you're going to be guiding your vehicle, just using that white line. Lower your speed when meeting or following other vehicles, because a lot of times if they have bad vision, they're going to be drifting over the center line. So if you're holding a center position or left of center, you're going to get hit or a near miss. So, watch for them, beep your horn, flash your lights, move to the right. All these things will help driving in fog. Be ready for quick stops and keep within the vision of your eyes. And then if you can't see it all, I will tell you some of the worst visibility I've ever had wasn't snow. It was fog. It was fog. And it was usually right around this time of night too, about 8:30. I can remember driving with a few students at night, and it had just been raining, and it had stopped. And then all of a sudden, it started to warm up again. It must have been like June. It was bad. So pull over, put your emergency flashes on, wait. If you have your parking lights on, they may not know that it's a stop vehicle. They may think it's a moving vehicle, so this is why you want to be off to the right with your emergency flashes. This is also why you don't want to drive with your emergency flashes. You just want to keep your headlights on low. So let's see driving in fog.
Fog is considered the most dangerous of all driving hazards. The best advice for driving in fog is don't. It's simply hard to see what's around you. If you must drive, then slow down and turn on your low beam headlights. The low beams help you to see and help others to see you. Driving instructor Zandrea Baldwin emphasizes to use low beams, not high beams.
If you have your high beams on, the glare is going to come back toward you from the fog. The fog is pretty much like a light, and if your light is shining against the fog, it's going to glare back into your windshield, and it could actually cause temporary blindness.
Because of the reduced visibility, it's vitally important to slow down and stay slowed down. Also, use the right edge of the road as a guide rather than the center line. This can help you to avoid running into oncoming traffic or from becoming distracted by oncoming headlights. And don't be too proud to ask for help.
Get your passengers involved. Have the passengers help you out, checking blind spots and things of that nature for you.
If the fog gets really thick, signal and pull off the road to a protected area. Then wait for the fog to let up. While pulled over, turn on your emergency flashers to make your car more visible to others. A final note, whatever you do, don't stop in the middle of the roadway, no matter how thick the fog is. That almost guarantees that someone will hit you from behind. Again, it's best not to drive in the fog at all. If you have to, stay alert. I'm Katina McHenry.
So you can see it really is a vision problem. So I would just, cut my speed in half and then kind of gauge with what other people are doing. Here's a situation that we had in California. I thought this was an interesting article. If you take a look at the picture down below, the colored one, that's a lot of cars, but that doesn't tell the whole story. It says that there was 194 cars that were piled into one another. Can you imagine that? 194 vehicles. Can you imagine the tow trucks that they needed to pull all these cars apart? And some of them were probably movable on their own, but others needed to be towed away. And the interesting part of the whole article, and I should probably highlight it, I'll read it. It says visibility was down to 50 feet in heavy fog when the chain reaction crashes began between 7 in the morning. Like I said, early morning is usually when it happens. Some motorists reportedly were driving 25 to 35 miles per hour. So if you're driving 25, 35 miles per hour and this is what happens, guess what? That was too fast. And if we looked at a stopping distance graph, what is the stopping distance for a car going around 30 miles per hour? Well, it's like 65 feet of braking feet. Now, we're not talking reaction. We're just talking actual foot on the brake, and then the car stops. But in the article, it says that they can only see 50 feet. So if you need 65 feet to stop, and you can only see 50 feet, you don't have enough with what you see. You're bound to go 15 feet in front of you, and that's why everything was piling up. So you've got to have a good sense of what stopping distance is, and then make your following distance accordingly in bad weather. If not, you're going to be involved in a lot of crashes. Okay, there are 3 types of weather that we do not really encounter that often around here, although some of you will debate me on this first one, because the last 2 weeks I have never encountered in my lifetime the heavy winds that we've had at night. And it was bad, but it's even worse than that in the Midwest and the West Coast. And you would probably say there's no way driving in the wind is going to be bad for a driver. Oh, no. It can actually move your vehicle 2 to 3 feet, depending on the speed that you're going. And if you're in a wide open area, like going over a bridge or, a desert area or a plain, a farming area that's wide open. The word of wisdom that I'm going to give to you, so I want you to write this down. If you are driving in a windstorm, try not to drive next to tractor trailers. Because of their height, their center of gravity is different than yours. Yours is lower, theirs is higher. And when they have an empty load, they don't have anything heavy in the back of their truck, they're just going to pick something up, it will tip over. So this video right here will surprise you of what these large vehicles will do. So let's take a look at driving in wind. Isn't that amazing that something you would think that heavy could get blown over? That is just to show you how powerful wind is. So it just goes to show maybe at times you shouldn't be driving. You know, pull over someplace, wait for a couple hours, especially if it's something like fog that will be lifted, something that will be much better in a later time. And I should mention that with snow, same thing. Do you actually have to go someplace? Do you need to get to work or go to school? Could it be something that you could do like we're doing now, remote? Can you do it another day, tomorrow or next week? A lot of people think that they have to drive. In reality, they don't. Now, I've never encountered this. I've never been in a sandstorm. Now, I've seen some dirt kick up where, for a moment, but what you're going to see, and I believe this video is only like 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes long, if that. Right now, in this picture that you see, it's the beginning of a sandstorm. So you can see all the cars that are in front of you. It really doesn't look that bad, but watch how it progressively gets worse as we get into the video. So treat it just like you would a fog. Move to the right. If it gets too bad, put your flashes on, stay stopped off to the side. I would probably pull into a parking lot. A sandstorm doesn't last that long, so we're not talking like, 45 minutes to an hour. It's probably more like 15, 20 minutes where it comes. It's almost like a quick, how a rainstorm comes and then it's gone really quickly. So let's take a look at a sandstorm. So that video was less than 2 minutes long. Look at the picture again in the front. This is what it looks like. And then in less than 2 minutes, it almost looked like you were driving at nighttime, where you couldn't see probably more than 150 feet in front of you. That's how quickly it gets. And the other thing, it's going to be hard to see pedestrians. It's going to be hard to see traffic signs. Lights are a little bit, it kind of penetrates through, but that's still going to be a challenge. So if you're going to drive in it, lower speeds, I would stay to the right lane. I wouldn't get in one of the faster lanes. I would probably pull into the parking lot and wait. The last thing that we're going to talk about with severe weather that we don't have around here is hail. Now, we do have hail to a certain extent. It's not super bad. I mean, we've had it bad in some years where it actually will leave marks and dents on the vehicle. But this is, I think, Kansas. And when he says it's the size of, I don't know, I think he says tennis balls or golf balls or something like that, they're big. And what you're going to see, they actually crack the window. I mean, it's coming down. So what you want to do in hail is you want to find something with a cover, like an underpass, go to a gas station, even go off to the side of the road underneath a tree. That is going to help keep your car intact where you're not going to have broken glass. Now, it's going to do a lot of damage. So hopefully, and we're going to talk about insurance next week, make sure that your car is always covered if you live in an area. So if you move from here to Kansas, maybe you may forget to put this type of insurance on your vehicle. If you don't have it, they're not going to replace your vehicle or fix it. So this is where you got to know when you're moving, what am I going to encounter? Sandstorms, windstorms. You may want to make sure that's going to be included in your coverage for insurance. So let's take a look at hail.
Oh, and there's that beautiful wall cloud right in front of us. Now we're getting baseball-sized hail. Oh my gosh, bigger than baseball. Woo! Woo! We're getting close to grapefruits over here. And I got it on camera. Oh my gosh, we've got softball-sized hail going on. And I just got, yep, I'm okay. I just got glass all over me. We got to get out of this. Yep, that just happened.
How do you want me to get out of it?
We don't, just keep driving. That's all we can do. I have glass all over me.
Don't move, don't move.
If I'm gonna, oh my gosh. Yep, got that one too. Can we find a place to pull under?
I'm trying to. I don't think the trees can work.
Oh my gosh, this is the biggest hail I've ever seen. Oh, and it's, I'm covered in glass. This,
what do you want me to do?
There's nothing.
So you're not going to be able to drive. Luckily, they made it to their destination, but look, that windshield was just demolished. So vision, you're just not going to be able to see. I would say stick your head out the window while you drive real slow, but you don't want to get hit by the hail. I would imagine it would do some major problems to your head and your face. Now we'll talk about the type of weather that we have all 12 months. It's the type of weather that you'll see that you'll be driving in quite a bit. It rains a lot because we've got 3 seasons where it's not cold enough to freeze to cause it to turn to snow. Or maybe you're going to move to a place of the country where you don't get snow and it's only going to be rain. But rain is not a problem to drive in as long as, once again, as long as you're going at an appropriate speed and an appropriate following distance, you're not going to have an issue. Now, everybody thinks, and the term hydroplane means that your tires are riding up on top of the water. You know that if you did your reading. If not, you better read it tonight. But I think that rain creates more of a visibility problem because of the back window and the side windows where people make bad decisions. It's not going to be lack of traction. Now, if it is lack of traction, if it is a traction problem, it's because it's speed related or you have bad tires or a combination of multiple things. But if you've got good tires on a good road, I have never experienced hydroplaning with a student. We've gone through puddles, which will create a sense of being pushed in the direction where the puddle is, but that's not hydroplaning. That's just going through large water. So if you've got the right side going through water and the left side is not, it's going to pull to the right. That's not hydroplaning. Hydroplaning is like skipping a stone on top of water. If you've ever seen someone skip a stone, they can even do it for 3, 4, 5, 6 times. That's hydroplaning, where you skip on water, your tires regrip the road, comes back off the water, back onto the road, up off on the next patch of water, then back down. So you can hydroplane a couple times with your tires. The thing you need to remember is that whatever direction that your tires are pointing is where you're going to go once you get traction again. So what you want to do is to let go of the accelerator if you think you're going to hydroplane and keep your vehicle pointing in the direction that you want it to go next. Don't start freaking out and start turning left and right, quite a bit with the steering wheel, like quarter, half turns, because once it grips the road, you are going to shoot in that direction. Rain in the summertime can be problems at stop signs, traffic lights, because oil drips off your vehicle. If you ever take a look at a parking spot or a stop line, you'll see little black blotches. That's oil dripping off the car. So if your vehicle hits that spot, you're going to probably skip or slide just a few inches to a foot or so. If you're going a slow speed, it's not that big of a deal, but higher speeds, definitely going to be an issue. Wet leaves that pile up in the fall when you're on a back road, you try to brake, your tires are gripping. Let's say there's 13 layers of leaves, leaves on the road. You're gripping the first 3 top layers 10, 11, 12, 13. Well, the bottom layers, you're not making any substantial contact with. You're going to just slide. It's almost like when you have a stack of papers between two hands. You start rubbing your hands, the papers are going to separate. Same thing with the leaves and tires. Headlights are on all the time. Now, in some states, you can write this down. Massachusetts, because my son got pulled over for this, that if you're driving in the rain in Massachusetts, you have to have your headlights on and your wipers. Maine's the same thing. You're using your wipers because of rain, you need your headlights on. New Hampshire's not such a state, but I do recommend it. I always recommend having your headlights on, even if it's nice out, just so your car can be seen. So that would not be a problem in the driver's ed car. Make sure that you signal and brake well ahead of time. Know the difference between a pothole and a puddle. A puddle will be very curvy. It will not be like a circle. A pothole will take in water according to what the pothole looks like. And a pothole usually is more circular. And a pothole, you drop down and then you come abruptly back up out of it. So your car is going to have more damage when you hit a pothole. Anything that drops more than like 2 or 3 inches, there's a chance when you come back out, it's going to tweak the alignment of your vehicle. It could pop a tire, but more than that, it's probably going to be an alignment. So you may say, what's alignment? Alignment is pointing your tires to go straight ahead in a particular direction. And there's certain degrees that your tires can actually be moved to help for steering. And when you start getting your tires out of alignment, like one tire is out of alignment, the other one's in alignment, when you're driving at faster speeds, it's going to wear out the tire that's not aligned correctly, because there's going to be more resistance on the roadway. Any type of water on the road you should try to avoid. Definitely try to avoid potholes. So straddle them, go around them. Puddles, always try to go around it if you can. If you can't, try to hit only the edges, because a puddle will always be its deepest at the middle of where you see that water. So look at that puddle, look where you think the middle is, stay away from it. Go towards the edges. And try not to go through puddles when there are people walking. Try not to be inconsiderate when you're driving. Do not splash. And the faster you go, the bigger the splash. I still can remember to this day driving past Dover High and watching a student in front of us go into the puddle at a higher rate of speed than he was traveling, just so he could get more of a spray to spray all his friends that were walking on the side of the road. Now, he got a good laugh out of it, but I'm sure his friends weren't too pleased with him. Also have your headlights on. So between those red arrows is a car that you don't see. We see the car behind, but there's a car in front of those headlit cars. So this is why it's so important to have your headlights on. Okay, let's take a look at rain. Driving in rain.
The weather can present traffic hazards. Take rain. It's a hazard from the moment the first drops fall. This is when rain first mixes with oil and dust on the pavement. It's very slick. This is what happens. The dirt and oil float to the top of the water. So tires ride not only on the slippery surface of water, but also directly on the even more slippery surface of oil and dirt. It's no wonder so many crashes happen just after it starts raining. Eventually, dust and oil wash away, but plenty of hazards remain. Rain, especially heavy rain, limits your ability to see. It's hard for you to see what's going on, and it's hard for other people to see you. In addition to making it difficult to see, rain keeps roads slippery. Traction becomes a critical issue, and hydroplaning, a real danger. 3 main factors cause a car or truck to hydroplane: speed, tread depth, and water depth. The faster your car or truck goes, the more traction you lose on a wet surface. The more worn your tires are, and the shallower the tread, the more likely your car is to hydroplane. Even a thin layer of water can cause your car to lose traction. But as the water gets deeper, you lose traction sooner.
It all happens in a space no bigger than the bottom of a size 9 shoe. Now picture this. It's a smooth roadway. There's moderate rain, and you're traveling at 60 miles per hour. Under these conditions, each tire has to move away about 1 gallon of water every second. All in a space no bigger than this shoe.
Each gripping element of the tread is on the ground even less time, 1/50th of a second. During this fleeting moment, the gripping element must move the water from beneath the tire and then grip the road surface. If this doesn't happen, your car may likely hydroplane.
When a car hydroplanes, the most important thing that someone needs to remember is don't panic.
First, do not brake or accelerate suddenly. Since hydroplaning is a loss of traction to the front tires, sudden braking on a front or rear wheel drive slows the front tires but locks the rear tires. This can cause a spin out. Also, sudden acceleration on a front or rear wheel drive may take the vehicle straight ahead. This could be dangerous if the vehicle is pointed toward the edge of the roadway. According to some driving experts, what you should do depends on the type of vehicle you're in. Listen for the type of vehicle you drive. A front-wheel drive with an anti-lock brake system and traction control system. Front-wheel drive without an anti-lock brake system and traction control system. A rear-wheel drive with an anti-lock brake system and traction control system. If you begin to hydroplane in one of these types of cars, then some driving experts suggest you do this. Look for open space and plan to travel in that direction. Stay slightly on the accelerator and steer gently toward the open space which you have identified. If you are in a rear-wheel drive without an anti-lock brake system and traction control system, then do this. Look for open space and plan to travel in that direction. Ease off the accelerator and steer towards the open space which you have identified. Traction control systems, by the way, have been installed in vehicles for a number of years now, but everyone may not be familiar with it. This is a system that prevents tires from spinning under acceleration. If your vehicle has a traction control system, there should be an icon indicating so on your dashboard.
Another note, it's important not to have the cruise control engaged in heavy rain due to a sudden acceleration problem. The vehicle will recognize the water buildup as a slowdown and ask for more power. This need for more power may shift, causing the vehicle to shift to a lower gear and build more water under the tires. This causes a cycle of more power and more push on the front tires.
You can avoid hydroplaning by making sure the tread on your tires is thick enough and by slowing down. Here's a good rule of thumb for checking your tread. Stick a penny upside down in your tread. If Lincoln's head is hidden, then your tread is thick enough. If the tread doesn't hide Lincoln's head, then your tread is too thin and you need new tires. When it comes to speed on a wet road, slow down by about 1/3 of what you would normally drive. For example, if you normally drive 60 miles per hour on a dry highway, slow down to 40 when it's wet.
So driving in the rain really doesn't cause too many problems, but if it does, you should kind of follow the steps that they listed right here. So remember, hydroplaning is riding on top of water, so your tires aren't gripping, so you can't accelerate, you can't brake, you can't steer. It usually begins around 35. So if you're going lower than that, your chances of hydroplaning are almost, nil. You're more apt to see it on back roads because they don't build the roads correctly. They're not banked or crowned. Water will tend to puddle a little bit more. So be careful when you're driving on some of those back roads. So what can you do to reduce hydroplaning? Just reduce your speed when you see these areas. We talked about tires being in good shape and properly inflated. Makes sense too. Try to keep your car going or in the direction that you want. They showed you the woman that was trying to get out of a skid by steering where she wanted to go. Always think about steering. Never think about accelerating or braking. Braking is only after you feel you've got your car going where you want it to go. So once you've got the speed where you think it should be, then you can actually brake. On nighttime driving, I think we're going to do the beginning of tomorrow because we're right up against where I normally like to let you go. I did take a couple people's suggestions for drive times tomorrow, so I did give out a couple during a couple of the videos, but I still have 8 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and 11 o'clock. So if you can drive 8, 11, or 2, please text me in just a few moments and let me know that you can do it. If you want to drive Thursday or Friday, we'll see what we can do for those times too. Your homework tomorrow is to do chapter 18. We're going to do alcohol and drugs after we finish up on nighttime driving. And remember, I need chapter 13, those questions. At the end of the chapter, please just send me a screenshot of the questions that you've answered. So that's it. So just chapter 18, we're going to talk about the laws in doing an article like we did with road rage with the alcohol, but we'll do that tomorrow night. So that's it for tonight. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you took good notes, because from everything from the midterm till the final, it's going to be more heavily weighted on the final. So make sure that you take good notes the next 4 classes that we have, because it's going to go really, really quick with material. So keep on the reading, take good notes, and you should do good on the final. So that's it for tonight. Text me if you can drive, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.